A good Monday morning, Quad Cities. Thanks for checking in on our forecast here as we get you ready for a new week ahead and an active start to the week, too. We're tracking some severe weather potential for later this morning into the early afternoon before we track a whole lot of heat and humidity. First, let's knock the severe weather threat out of the area here for today, show you what this is going to break down towards. All of us, especially along and north of Interstate 80 on the Illinois side of the river, threat track level 2 out of 5, where you're seeing the bright red here. Let's zoom in a little bit closer. So really along and north of I-80, I think are the best areas that are going to see that threat for severe storms as we go into the late morning, early afternoon. There you see future track bringing in a couple of those just after the noon hour. And once we get towards 1, 2 o'clock, that threat will quickly come to an end and head off to the east. So very short window of opportunity, but need to keep our eye on the radar, that's for sure. Now, storms today are going to track along what we call an instability gradient. It's almost like an instability storm energy boundary where you go from no energy to a whole bunch of it. So where that gradient or that boundary lays out is where the strong storms are going to track this morning. And so far, the indications are that that boundary will lift here near Interstate 88 as we go into the late morning. There's 11 o'clock. You see a fairly good looking thunderstorm headed through Whiteside County towards the Sauk Valley. So we'll see how that plays out. Once we get to noon, all of that moving off to the east. So let's break this down. Threat track again, level 2 out of 5 today. Damaging wind, perhaps an isolated tornado, mainly north of Interstate 80 and on the Illinois side. Now there's some good news in that the damaging wind threat, the potential for a corridor of 80-mile-an-hour plus winds, that's now moved out of the Quad Cities for now, headed off to the north and east here. We'll get a new update at 8 o'clock from the Storm Prediction Center. We'll see if this changes, but as of right now, it looks like we're out of the worst of the wind threat. However, closer to home, we could still see gusts on the order of 60 to 70 miles an hour with some of these storms a little bit later this afternoon, or this morning, I should say. Also, can't rule out the risk for an isolated tornado, too, especially in the orange zone here from Clinton, Sterling Rock Falls, Lanark, Savannah, Mount Carroll, up through Galena. So make sure you got that News 8 app. Of course, you'll get all the alerts right through the app itself. Let's go through future track, kind of dissipating these storms here on the local view, but there is the potential that some of these could re-intensify, especially when you see the temperatures heading for the 80s already just before the noon hour. So we'll keep an eye on that, but there you see 1 o'clock, it's off to the east, and here comes the heat and humidity. As highs surge well into the 90s today. We've got a heat advisory that will kick off at noon. It goes all the way through Wednesday evening, and that's when we could see heat index values between 105 and 115. So we know the drill. Don't leave the pets in the car. Limit their time outside. Make sure they and yourself have plenty of water that you can use to stay hydrated and keep cool. So the worst of this humidity, that's going to be Tuesday. Feels like temperatures of 112. Look at the record tomorrow, too, 101. We're going to come awfully close to that. We will likely set a new record high for Wednesday. And then a cold front will work in Wednesday night. Notice the humidity gets sliced because that feels like temperature, not nearly as big of a difference. So there is a little bit of relief coming, but it's still going to be hot because there's a new round of 90s on the way once we get past the weekend. So more 90s to come, even the opportunity we could see near 100-degree weather next week, and also the opportunity for a few more active storms on Wednesday. So stick with us today. Of course, we'll let you know what these storms are doing. Download the News 8 app. And if we have some active storms in the area, we'll break in both online and on air to track those storms live should we need to do that. Stick with us today.